The desert
We'll get
wind
through
howled
this.
across the plains of New Mexico,
I know.
dragging
I'm here.
dust along the empty road that led into the small frontier town of Red Hollow. It was a place built on secrets and blood, where grudges lasted longer than droughts, and justice came from the barrel of a gun. Ethan Cole rode into town just before sunset. His coat was dark with travel dust, his hat pulled low over sharp eyes that had seen too much war and too little mercy. The townsfolk pretended not to stare, but word traveled quickly in Red Hollow. A stranger with that kind of silence around him never meant peace. 5 years ago, Ethan had left this land on a stretcher, his back torn open by a bullet meant to paralyze him. He remembered the doctor whispering that he might never walk again. He remembered the laughter outside the clinic, men celebrating what they thought was the end of him. But Ethan had walked. He had learned to stand through pain that felt like fire running down his spine. He had learned to ride again when every movement sent lightning through his legs. And most of all, he had learned to wait. Red Hollow belonged to Victor Hale now, a ranch king with a smile as cold as winter steel. Victor Hale had once been Ethan's closest friend. Together they built fences, broke horses, and dreamed of owning the valley. Until greed changed everything. Ethan tied his horse outside the saloon. The swinging doors creaked as he stepped inside. Piano music faltered. Conversations thinned into uneasy silence. Behind the bar stood Clara Bennett. She hadn't changed. The same chestnut hair pinned loosely back. The same steady eyes that once looked at Ethan like he was the only man alive. She froze when she saw him, her hand tightening around a glass. "You're supposed to be dead," she whispered. "Not yet," Ethan replied. Clara walked around the bar slowly, as if approaching a ghost. "Victor said the bullet shattered your spine. He said you'd never walk. He lies well." Pain flickered across her face at the mention of Victor's name. Ethan noticed the way her shoulders stiffened, the way fear hid behind her strength. "What are you doing here?" she asked. "Finishing something." Outside, laughter erupted, deep, confident, cruel. Victor Hale entered the saloon with 2 deputies at his side. He wore fine boots and a polished revolver, the badge on his vest shining brighter than it should have. He stopped when he saw Ethan. For a heartbeat, the room held its breath. "Well," Victor said slowly, "miracles do happen." Ethan didn't smile. "Looks like you missed." Victor's eyes narrowed, calculating. "I remember that day differently. You drew first. That's what you told the sheriff. That's what everyone believes." Clara stepped between them. "Not here," she pleaded. "Not like this." Victor's jaw tightened. He wasn't used to being challenged, especially not by ghosts. "You've got Nev coming back," he said to Ethan. "After everything." "After you tried to bury me," Ethan answered evenly. The tension in the saloon thickened like storm clouds. Victor finally laughed and turned away. "You've got 24 hours, he said over his shoulder.
We'll get through
Then you
this.
ride out, or you won't be riding at all."
I know.
He left
I'm
with
here.
his men, but the threat lingered.
We'll
That
get
night,
through
Clara
this.
found Ethan in the old stable behind the saloon.
I know.
"You
I'm
shouldn't
here.
have come back," she said softly. He was brushing his horse, movements careful and controlled. "You sound like him." "I sound scared. For me. For everyone." She stepped closer, close enough to see the faint stiffness in his posture. "Does it still hurt?" "Every day." Her hand hovered near his back but didn't touch. "I prayed you'd survive. When they carried you away, I thought I'd never see you again. You could have written." "Victor controls everything here," she said bitterly. "The ranches, the law, even the mail." Ethan studied her face. "Why stay?" "Because leaving means losing everything. Or gaining something better." She looked at him then, not as a ghost, not as a memory, but as a man who had come back from hell. "You still want revenge?" she asked. "Yes." "And after that?" He didn't answer. The next morning, Ethan visited the doctor who had treated him years ago. The old man's hands trembled as he poured coffee. "You shouldn't be standing. I shouldn't be alive either. That bullet grazed your spine. A miracle, yes. But another hit like that." He didn't finish. "I don't plan on getting hit again." By noon, half the town knew something was coming. Victor's men kept watch from rooftops. The air felt charged. Clara confronted Victor in his office above the general store. "Call it off," she demanded. Victor leaned back in his chair. "You care about him that much? He doesn't deserve this." "Deserve?" Victor's voice sharpened. "He betrayed me. You betrayed him first." The truth hung between them. Victor's temper flared. "I built this town," he snapped. "He was too weak to do what needed to be done. So you shot him in the back." Victor's silence was answer enough. That evening, Ethan stood at the edge of town, waiting. Victor arrived alone. "You always did like drama," Victor said. "You
always did like shortcuts. The sun dipped lower, casting long shadows. Hands hovered near holsters. You think killing me fixes anything? Victor asked. It's not about fixing, it's about ending. Victor drew first. The gunshot echoed across the plains. Pain exploded through Ethan's side as he stumbled, but he didn't fall. Years of agony had trained him not to. He fired once. Victor staggered, disbelief in his eyes, and collapsed into the dust. Silence followed. Ethan swayed, blood soaking his shirt. The wound wasn't his spine, but it was bad. Clara ran toward him, catching him before he hit the ground. You're bleeding, she cried. I've bled before. This isn't the same. He managed a faint smile. Guess I'm hard to put down. Days later, Ethan lay in the doctor's clinic once more. You're lucky again, the doctor muttered. But your body's not invincible. Clara sat beside the bed, refusing to leave. When Ethan finally woke fully, he found her hand wrapped around him. Victor's gone, she said quietly. Good. You could stay, she added. He studied her face. Would you want me to? Yes. Revenge had brought him back. Pain had shaped him. But it was Clara's voice, steady and fierce, that gave him something he hadn't expected. A future. Recovery was slow. Some days his legs trembled. Some nights the old injury burned like wildfire. There were moments he feared the doctor's first prediction might still come true, that one day he might wake unable to stand. But he wasn't alone anymore. Clara walked with him each morning, even when his steps were uneven. She learned the rhythm of his pain, and he learned the strength of her patience. Spring came to Red Hollow. Fences were repaired. The saloon laughter sounded different, lighter. The town no longer belonged to fear. One evening Ethan stood at the edge of the valley, watching the sunset. Clara joined him. You ever regret not killing him sooner? She asked. I regret trusting him, Ethan said, but not surviving. She slipped her hand into his. The desert wind still carried dust. The scars still ached. The past could not be erased. But the man who was once left for dead now stood taller than ever, not because revenge made him strong, but because love did. And this time no one would ever take that from him.